What does this pumpkin patch have to do with Coca-Cola? I swear that's not a trick question, and no, as far as I can tell, Coke isn't making some sort of pumpkin spice soda this year. Now there is a pumpkin spice non-alcoholic beer for dogs, but if you're not looking to pretend that you're a sober hound, you could always grab a Coca-Cola Y3000. This is the beverage that Coke claims they co-created with artificial intelligence. Those freestyle machines must double as quantum computers or something. Reviews say this beverage has taste notes of everything from gummy bears to buttered popcorn jelly beans to that thing where you mix all your sodas together at the soda fountain. Now I've never had one before, and I also don't drink soda, so I can conclusively state this tastes broken. Oh my god. Well, it's zero sugar, which is already a problem. It tastes like you left a bunch of Swedish fish in a fish tank full of water in a hot car on a summer day. Just to be clear, that's not a compliment. This thing is actually just like social media. It is disgusting and awful, and yet I keep drinking it. Anyway, if your taste buds still function after drinking a bottle of computer juice, I want to point out a common ingredient that's required to make both pumpkins and Coca-Cola. And it's not a candle, and it's not a cocaine. It's a water. Or just water.
You're at the mercy of Mother Nature, so it's hard to plan, and you do the best you can. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're not.
You're looking at a pumpkin patch about a half hour northeast of Denver, Colorado, where this pumpkin farmer is contending with the fact that Ma Nature isn't doing much to mitigate the effects of drought.
We found out pretty early in the year that our reservoir supplies were pretty low, and we were only going to get about half the water we normally get on a normal year.
For decades, the American Southwest has been grappling with mega drought conditions. Drought meaning a prolonged period of unusually persistent dry weather, and mega meaning very large. Take a look at this map from the US Drought Monitor taken last September, which finds an entire slew of western states facing conditions that range from D0, abnormally dry, to D4, exceptional drought. D2 and D3, of course, meaning the Mighty Ducks. Looking at that same drought monitor today, it's mostly the southwestern states like New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado that are facing a range of dry conditions. And conditions like these are leaving wholesale pumpkin farmers to make business decisions based on how much water is available for the taking, like cutting back on which crops they decide to grow, or sticking with a reduced gourd output.
Everything's a money game, you know, I don't want to put money in, not get a return on it, so I had made the decision right off the bat to plant half, probably 60% of what I normally would do, just in case I would have to irrigate up if it was a hotter summer. I mean, at that time, predictions were pretty bleak. Our summer was looking very bleak in March and April, and even May.
And again, we're only talking about water. Coupled with inflation, labor shortages, and entire crops of pumpkins that turn out to be just weird people killing time in the woods, it's hard to predict what to do, notes this guy with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service.
Overall economy, everything has increased in terms of inputs for our producers. You know, fuel has increased, what it costs for labor has increased. Our farmers struggle having enough people to work the fields and to drive the tractors and all, not just pumpkins, all of our crops. And so it's just an ongoing challenge, which it is with all businesses right now.
Now, over the past 2 years, the USDA says that drought conditions have improved throughout much of the western US. But as that pumpkin farmer points out, even when conditions improve, it might not be enough lead time to start cranking out entire fields of those Taylor Swift-sized squash.
By the time it started raining, and the rain started to affect our reservoir supplies and everything else that happens, it was just too late for this year, but we're in good shape next year for the reservoirs.
Which takes us to this Coca-Cola bottling plant.
It's why our Coca-Cola operates in the West. This is a region where it's an arid region, it's a drought-stricken region, and will continue to be a drought-stricken region. It's imperative if we want to stay in business and our communities want to thrive, that we continue to do our part and invest our communities and our watersheds.
That's the director of sustainability at the place, who points out that when it comes to the Coca-Cola beverage itself, it isn't the sugar or the phosphoric acid or something like polar bear fur extract collected after the Christmas ad campaigns are over that makes their drink something you can drink. Or at least when it comes to this drink, something you can almost drink.
Water is the #1 ingredient in our product. It's important to us that we have a secure water supply.
This facility just poured $5 million into a new reverse osmosis water filtration system. And look at that, it's osmosing in reverse, all in the name of saving water.
When we receive water from municipality, we filter that water to meet our standards. there is a discharge from that, and we lose approximately 20% from our system. So what we did was install another piece of equipment to filter that water and get another percentage increase, so a total yield of approximately 90 to 95% versus 80%.
So back in March, Coke laid out some big water conservation goals. Among them, achieving 100% circular water use by 2030. Circular water use is where all water is considered a resource, including wastewater, and every drop somehow gets used and eventually returned to where it came from. It's kind of like how I didn't forget to drain the tub. I was saving it for you to help the environment.
We clean our equipment. That takes water. So once we clean that equipment, what can we do with that water? And we're starting to get innovative on that, and that's how we're going to get to our next goal.
Now we're talking about Coke here because they're one of several companies that just got analyzed by Ceres. No, not a bunch of voice assistants that struggle to turn the lights on. It's a nonprofit sustainability company. They assessed a bunch of huge corporations across industries that typically use a ton of water: clothing, food, beverages, and tech, all of which claim to be striving towards sustainability goals by 2030. Here's that report's co-author.
So in order for us to ensure that we have sustainable water supplies for communities, for the environment, and for businesses, we really need the private sector to step up and steward the water resources.
Okay, so are these companies stepping up to shoo the waiter away, saying, "No thanks, we're making the most of the water we have"? Not quite. Of the 72 companies Ceres looked into, a big fat zero goose egg of them are leading the way, meaning none of them are approaching the finishing line for their 2030 goals. Though it is worth pointing out that none actually uses zero water at all, which maybe makes them the most sustainable company? Probably not, as it's not a company. However, in the on-track category of the ambition spectrum, a phrase that sounds like it was invented by your high school guidance counselor, Coca-Cola is right there in the middle, around 55%. Which means it's making some notable progress towards its goals. Though it is several spots behind chief rival PepsiCo, the makers of, yep, Brad's drink. And while those may not sound like the most impressive numbers, they're still far ahead of the ones from tech giants like Apple, said to be just starting the journey by scoring less than 20% in the study, and Amazon.com Incorporated at just over 12%, due to the fact that they use a ton of water to cool down computers in their data centers. And in the food sector, Sir Ronald McDonald himself barely ranks at just over 11%, which is still far above Chiquita at what's basically a rounding error.
Pretty much every company in every part of the globe is connected to water. And without a sustainable water supply, no company can operate and sustain itself.
That's right, because it doesn't matter if you're growing pumpkins or producing whatever ChatGPT hallucinated into thinking tastes like a delicious beverage.
We're going to have to get very creative. We're going to have to do more water reuse.
Well, at least we know where the humans might have got their idea for this stuff. Terrible.